The great hall was full of noise. 900 different species talked and argued and laughed. Their voices mixed together like a strange song. The walls of Station Cora were made of black stone that came from a dead star. Lights floated in the air like tiny suns. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Ambassador Eunice stood at the smallest podium in the room. It was placed in the lowest spot, near the floor, while other species sat high above her on platforms of gold and silver. This was where provisional members had to stand. This was where humans belonged, according to the Galactic Council. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had spent 40 years of her life in this hall. 40 years of smiling when she wanted to scream. 40 years of bowing when she wanted to fight. Her aide, a young man named Tay, stood behind her. His hands were shaking with anger, but he kept his face calm. Earth requests expansion of trade routes to the Orion Arm, Eunice said. Her voice was steady and clear. Our population has grown. Our people need more resources. We ask the Council to consider our request. The Vel delegate rose from his platform. His name was Thomas's, and he was 3 meters tall, with dark blue skin and 4 yellow eyes. His people were one of the oldest races in the galaxy. They had ruled their corner of space for 10,000 years. They looked at humans the way humans might look at insects. Your population requires nothing, Thomas's said. The translator made his words sound flat and cold. Humans breed like parasites. You consume like fire. The Council has already been too kind by letting your species into protected space. Laughter filled the chamber. The Madri creatures with 6 arms and heads like flowers clicked their approval. The Fenrith, tall beings that looked like horses made of stone, stamped their hooves against the floor. Even the OTI, who usually stayed quiet, flashed their glowing skin in agreement. Una felt Tay move behind her. She made a small gesture with her hand without turning around. Stand down. Not yet. Thomas's was enjoying himself now. He walked to the edge of his platform and looked down at Una like she was something dirty on his floor. Perhaps if Earth gave something of value to this council, we might think again, he said. But what do humans offer? You have no mind powers like the Madri. Your technology was copied from others. Your lives are so short that you barely exist before you die. He paused and smiled with his wide, lipless mouth. You are Ambassador, a species of clever animals. You found the stars by accident. You do not belong here. The assembly roared with laughter again. Some species threw things toward the human podium. Small objects, pieces of food, bits of trash. The guards did nothing to stop them. Una looked at the floor. Many in the chamber thought she was ashamed. They thought they had finally broken the human spirit. But Tay could see her face. He could see the cold fire burning in her eyes. This was not shame. This was something else entirely. She had come here today with hope. She had believed, even after all these years, that maybe things could change. That maybe the Council would finally see humans as equals. Now she knew the truth. The galaxy would never accept them. The galaxy would never respect them. The galaxy thought they were animals. Very well, she thought. Let them think that under the podium, hidden from view, Una tapped her wrist device. She sent a single word across 8,000 light-years of space. The word was simple. Confirm. On Earth. In a secret base deep under the mountains of Korea, Admiral Day received the message. He was an old man with white hair and a face like carved stone. He had fought in 3 wars and buried 2 children. He knew what this message meant. He had been waiting for it for 17 years. He turned to his command staff. 20 officers stood around a table covered with maps and screens. Commander Hannah, his second in command, watched him with careful eyes. It is done, Admiral Day said quietly. Begin Protocol Sunrise. As of this moment, Earth withdraws from all treaties. All agreements. All accords. Every single one. The room was silent for a moment. Then Hannah spoke. All of them, sir. Even the navigation treaties. The medical agreements. The food distribution pacts. All of them, sir. Some of those treaties protect us too. The defense agreement with the OTI. The trade route access through Fenrith space. Admiral Day walked to a window that showed the night sky. Stars burned in the darkness like distant fires. "For 40 years, we have followed their rules," he said. "We have bowed and smiled and begged for scraps. We have let them insult us. We have let them hurt us. We did this because we thought it was the only way to survive." He turned back to face his officers. "We were wrong. Survival is not enough. Our children deserve more than survival. They deserve respect." He pressed a button on the table. Across the world, across the solar system, across the galaxy, human workers received the same message. Engineers on distant stations, doctors in alien hospitals, pilots flying dangerous routes, farmers growing food on borrowed worlds, translators helping species talk to each other. The message was simple: come home. Leave everything. Come home now. Back on Station Cora, the laughter continued. Thomas's was still mocking humans, still making jokes about their short lives and weak bodies. The assembly loved it. They always loved when someone made fun of the humans. Ambassador Yuna raised her head. She looked at Thomas's with eyes that showed nothing. No anger, no shame, no fear. "Thank you for your answer," she said calmly. "Earth has heard the council clearly. We will trouble you no more." She turned and walked out of the chamber. Tay followed her. No one tried to stop them. No one cared enough to stop them. The assembly kept laughing long after she was gone. They did not know that the galaxy had just changed forever. They did not know that in the next few days, everything they believed about humans would be proven wrong. They did not know that they had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. But they would learn, soon. They would all learn. The galaxy did not notice at first. Why would it? Humans were small and weak and unimportant. The council continued its work. The Vel made more speeches about human inferiority. The Madri submitted new proposals to limit human travel even more. The Fenrith suggested building walls around Earth's solar system to keep humans contained. Business as usual. Nothing to worry about. Then the silence began. The Paxes Corridor was the most important trade route in the galaxy. It was a narrow path through a field of broken rocks and dead ships. Flying through it without help was suicide. But if you could navigate it safely, you could cut 3 months off any journey. Every species used it. Every species needed it. For 60 years, human engineers had maintained the navigation beacons in the corridor. They fixed the lights. They updated the maps. They warned ships about new dangers. It was boring work. Dangerous work. The kind of work that no advanced species wanted to do. So humans did it, because humans would do anything to be useful. Station Commander Minho had worked in the corridor for 30 years. He was 62 years old, with gray hair and hands that shook slightly from radiation exposure. He had saved 10,000 ships during his career. He had received no medals, no thanks, no recognition. The Vel called his station the human garbage dump. On the morning after Yuna's humiliation, Minho called his entire crew together. 1,700 humans gathered in the main hall of the station. Engineers, technicians, pilots, medics, families with children. Old workers who had spent their whole lives here. You all received the message, Minho said. Earth is withdrawing from all treaties. We are going home. Young engineer raised her hand. Sir, what about the beacons? If we shut them down, ships will crash. Minho nodded slowly. I know. I have thought about this for many years. I have imagined this day. He looked at the faces around him. Some were scared. Some were angry. Some were crying. For 30 years, I kept these beacons running. For 30 years, I was called garbage. My children were called garbage. We saved their ships and they spat on us. His voice grew hard. No more. We are leaving. The beacons will go dark. The people will die, the young engineer said, as Minho agreed. But they are not our people. And they are not our responsibility anymore. He walked to his console and powered it down. One by one, across the corridor, the beacons went dark. The station fell silent. Then, in orderly lines, 1,700 humans boarded transport ships that had been secretly positioned weeks before. The ships had been hiding in the asteroid field, waiting for this moment. The first convoy to enter the corridor without guidance was a Vel luxury liner. It was carrying 4,000 wealthy Vel citizens returning from vacation. The ship struck a rogue asteroid at 1/3 the speed of light. There was no warning, no time to react. No survivors. Across the galaxy, similar scenes unfolded. On the Madri homeworld, the central hospital was the largest medical facility in 3 sectors. The Madri had complex bodies with 17 different organs. Their biology was so strange that only one species had ever mastered their medicine. Humans. Human. Doctors had studied Madri anatomy for decades. They were the only ones who could perform surgery on Madri patients without killing them. On that same morning, 312 human doctors submitted their resignations. They walked out of operating rooms. They left patients on tables. They abandoned treatments that only they could finish. The head doctor, a woman named Gina, met with the Madri hospital director before she left. "You cannot do this," the director said. His flower-like head was turning gray with stress. "We have patients who will die without treatment. Children, elders, important leaders." "I know," Gina said calmly. "For 20 years, your government has called us monkey doctors. Your newspapers print cartoons of humans wearing doctor clothes like costumes. Your children throw stones at my staff when they walk in the streets." The director opened and closed his mouth. "That is culture. You must understand." "I understand perfectly. You hate us, but you need us. You mock us, but you cannot survive without us." Gina picked up her bag. "Find someone else to save your children. We are done." Translators left next. The Fenrith spoke in sounds that were too low for most species to hear. Their language was impossible to learn for any species except humans. Human ears could hear the deep sounds. Human throats could produce them. For 50 years, human translators had been the bridge between the Fenrith and everyone else. When the translators stopped answering calls, the Fenrith found themselves unable to communicate with the galaxy. Their trade deals collapsed. Their diplomatic messages went unread. They screamed into the void, but no one could understand them. Human miners on Khalees 7 walked off their jobs, leaving machines running and tunnels half-dug. Human farmers on the breadbasket worlds stopped harvesting crops, letting food rot in the fields. Human pilots who flew the dangerous rift routes parked their ships and went home. None of them used violence. None of them made threats. They simply stopped helping. Ambassador Yuna returned to Earth on a diplomatic vessel. She was the last human to leave Council space by choice. As her ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, she looked back at the stars where she had spent her life. "How long do you think it will take them to notice?" Tay asked. "A few days," Yuna replied. "Maybe a week. They think we are ants. They do not watch ants. They do not count ants." She smiled a cold smile. "But when the ants stop working, the picnic ends." At the Galactic Assembly, Delegate Thomas's was confused. His messages to human stations were not being answered. His requests for human services were being ignored. He stood at his platform and demanded explanations. "Where are the humans?" He shouted. "What is the meaning of this abandonment? This is a violation of 17 different treaties." He looked down at the human podium. It was empty. For the first time in 40 years, no human stood in that spot. No human bowed. No human begged. The podium was just a piece of metal gathering dust. Thomas felt something strange in his stomach. He had felt it only a few times in his long life. It was fear. 3 weeks passed. The galaxy was falling apart. The Paxis corridor was closed. 47 ships had crashed, trying to navigate it without beacons. The wreckage floated in the darkness like metal ghosts. No one dared enter anymore. Trade routes that normally took 2 months now took 5. Supplies were running out everywhere. The Madri homeworld was in crisis. Without human doctors, 17,000 patients had died. Hospitals were closing. Doctors from other species tried to help, but they did not understand Madri biology. They made mistakes. They killed patients by accident. The Madri people were rioting in the streets. demanding answers their government could not give. The Fenrith had stopped talking to anyone. Without translators, they could not make new trade deals. Their economy was collapsing. Their leaders were screaming in their deep voices, but no one could understand what they were saying. They were alone in a galaxy that could not hear them, and this was only the beginning. Elder Counselor Bun of the OTU watched all of this from her platform in the assembly hall. She was very old, perhaps the oldest living being in the galaxy. Her species had been watching the stars before most others had learned to walk upright. Her skin glowed with soft blue light that pulsed with her thoughts. She had warned them. For 40 years she had spoken at every meeting where humans were mocked. She had told them to be careful. She had told them that small creatures can be dangerous. No one had listened. The young species never listened to the old ones. Now, as chaos spread across the galaxy, she rose to speak. "You asked what humans contribute?" Bun said. Her voice was soft, but it carried to every corner of the hall. The chamber fell silent. Even the panicking delegates stopped to listen. Now you know. They contributed everything. She activated the holographic display in the center of the room. Numbers appeared in the air, glowing like stars. Humans made up 4% of the galactic population. 4%. They held no seats on this council. They commanded no fleets. They controlled no territory beyond their single small system. She paused to let this sink in. And yet, more numbers appeared. Humans maintained 61% of critical infrastructure across the galaxy. They made up 44% of emergency medical workers in non-human facilities. They operated 78% of translation services. They performed 92% of high-risk navigation work. The chamber was completely silent now. Many delegates had stopped breathing. You gave them the jobs no one else wanted. The dangerous jobs, the boring jobs, the dirty jobs. You thought this made them servants? You thought this made them less than you? Ben's glow intensified with something like anger. You were fools. They were not servants. They were the foundation of everything. And now the foundation is gone. Delegate Thomas's stood up. His blue skin had turned pale with stress. This is economic warfare. They must be forced to return. We will send warships to Earth and make them come back. Bun laughed. It was a sad, tired sound. Warships. Your warships cannot navigate the corridor. Your soldiers cannot eat if the food supply collapses. Your children cannot be healed if the doctors are gone. She turned to face him directly with her ancient eyes. And you cannot make humans do anything. That has always been the truth you refuse to see. They are weak, Thomas's insisted. They have no real military. The treaties limited their fleet to a handful of patrol ships. They cannot fight back. Can they not? Ben asked softly. Are you certain? Thomas's had no answer. Suddenly, he was not certain of anything. On Earth, in a command center buried deep under the mountains, Admiral Day watched the chaos unfold on dozens of screens. Reports were coming in from everywhere. Crashed ships, dead patients, collapsing economies, hungry populations, riots, panic. Beside him stood Yuna, who was no longer ambassador. She had a new title now, Minister of External Affairs. It was a strange title for a job that involved no external affairs whatsoever. Earth had cut all ties with the galaxy. There was nothing external left. You're suffering, said Commander Hannah, reading reports on her screen. The Madri death toll is now over 20,000. The Fenrith have lost 40% of their trade value. 3 minor species are facing complete economic collapse. Yuna nodded. Her face showed no emotion. I know. Some of our people feel guilty, Hannah continued. They've spent their lives helping these species. Walking away is hard for them. It is hard for me too, Yuna admitted. I spent 40 years trying to build bridges, trying to make peace, trying to earn their respect. She walked to a window and looked at the stars. But respect cannot be earned from those who refuse to give it. Sometimes it must be taken. Admiral Day joined her at the window. They are panicking now. But panic turns to anger quickly. The Vel are already talking about military action. The Fenrith are hiring mercenaries. Soon they will try to force us back. Let them try, Una said. They do not know what we have built. They do not know what we have hidden. She turned to the room full of officers. Young faces. Old faces. Tired faces. Determined faces. For 40 years, humanity worked in the shadows. We maintained their machines. We healed their sick. We fed their hungry. We carried their burdens. And while we did all this, we also watched. We learned. We planned. We built. Her voice grew stronger. They think we are weak because we let them think that. Now, it is time to show them the truth. She nodded to Admiral Day. He activated a secure communication channel that reached every human vessel in the galaxy. This is Admiral Day to all human forces. Phase 2 begins now. Execute Operation Long Memory. Across the solar system, hidden shipyards came to life. In the asteroid belt, where the Council thought there was nothing but rocks, massive doors opened in the sides of mountains. Ships emerged. Hundreds of ships. Warships that had been built in secret for 37 years. A fleet that no treaty had ever permitted. A fleet that no one had ever suspected. Earth was done hiding. Earth was done begging. Earth was ready to show. The galaxy, exactly what clever animals could do. The Vel battle fleet jumped into Earth's solar system with fire in their hearts and revenge in their minds. 37 warships, each one larger than a city, armed with weapons that could crack planets. Admiral Vaughn stood on the bridge of his flagship and smiled with all 4 of his yellow eyes. Scan for human vessels, he commanded. According to our intelligence, they have only 12 patrol ships. This will be quick. The sensor officer went quiet. Then her voice came out very small. Sir, the scan is complete. I am reading 217 vessels. Repeat, 217. Vaughn's smile disappeared. That is impossible. Run the scan again. I've run it 3 times, sir. There are over 200 warships between us and Earth. They are larger than ours. They are pointing their weapons at us. On the bridge of the carrier Hansen, Admiral Day watched the Vel fleet through his viewing screens. He was calm. He had been waiting for this moment for most of his life. Open a channel, he said. Commander Hanna pressed a button. Channel open, sir? This is Admiral Day of the Earth Defense Force, speaking to the Vel fleet. You have entered Earth's sovereign space without permission. You are ordered to withdraw immediately. Admiral Vaughn's face appeared on the screen. His 4 eyes were wide with shock. The treaties forbid this. You are only permitted 12 patrol vessels. You signed the agreement yourself. Earth is no longer part of any treaty, Day replied calmly, including the ones that limited our military. We have been building in the asteroid belt for 37 years. Hidden shipyards. Underground factories. A complete parallel fleet. He paused and let his words sink in. You may leave now, or you may test our defenses. The choice is yours. Vaughn looked at his tactical display. 200 human warships against his 37. The humans had not just broken the treaties. They had been preparing for war while pretending to be servants. Everything the Council had believed about humanity was a lie. This is betrayal, Vaughn stammered. You pretended to be weak. You lied to the entire galaxy. No, Day said. We simply did not correct your assumptions. You assumed we were weak because we were kind. You assumed we were stupid because we were patient. You assumed we had nothing because we did not show you everything. His voice grew hard. Those were your mistakes, not our lies. The Vel fleet withdrew. They had no choice. When they returned to Vel space, Admiral Vaughn was arrested and executed for his failure. But it did not matter. The damage was done. The galaxy now knew that Earth had teeth. The second revelation came from Dr. Sue, head of Earth's Covert Research Division. She was a small woman with thick glasses and messy hair. For 30 years, she had led a team of scientists working in complete secrecy. The Council had believed that humanity had no original technology. They were wrong. Dr. Sue broadcast a message to every scientific institution in the galaxy. It was simple and devastating. My name is Dr. Sue. I speak on behalf of Earth's research community. For decades, the galactic community has believed that humans possess no advanced technology. You believed we could only copy the inventions of others. This was not true. We simply chose not to share what we had discovered. She held up a small device. This is a working prototype of a new faster-than-light engine. It is 4 times faster than any drive currently in use. We finished developing it 8 years ago. She held up another device. This is a shield that blocks psionic attacks. The Madri cannot read our minds anymore. We built it 15 years ago. She continued. Each device she showed was more impossible than the last. Synthetic gravity generators, teleportation across short distances. A cure for the cellular decay that slowly killed every Madri. Medical advances. Energy sources. Weapons that could disable ships without destroying them. We developed all of this in secret, Dr. Sue said. We hid it because we knew you would take it from us if you discovered it. We hid it because you called us stupid animals who could not create anything. We hid it because hiding was the only way to survive. She pushed up her glasses and stared into the camera. We are not hiding anymore. The third revelation was economic. Minister Yuna stood before the cameras in Seoul and announced the formation of the Human Economic Zone. It was a new trade network, completely separate from the Council's system. Any species that wanted to join could apply for membership. The terms were simple. Fair trade with equal terms. Mutual respect between partners. No species would be called animals. No species would be forced to bow. And most importantly, every member had to issue a formal apology for the years of abuse that humans had suffered. Within 1 week, these were the small species, the ones that had been treated almost as badly as humans, the Neth, who had been enslaved by the Vel, the Kalos, who had been driven from their homeworld, the Jiren, whose culture had been mocked and destroyed. Within 1 month, 43 species had joined. They were not all small anymore. Medium powers were starting to apply. Species that had always resented the Council's arrogance were looking at humanity with new eyes. Elder Bun of the OTE was the first major power to reach out. She traveled to Earth personally in her ancient ship. It took her 3 weeks to make the journey. She refused to use the fast routes that were now controlled by humans. She wanted to approach as a visitor, not as a conqueror. She met with Minister Yuna in a garden in Seoul. Cherry blossoms were falling like pink snow. A river flowed quietly nearby. It was peaceful. It was beautiful. It was very, very human. Planned this for generations, Bun said, watching the falling blossoms. The humiliation, the service, the bowing. It was all deliberate. Not at first, Yuna admitted. At first, we genuinely wanted to be accepted. We wanted to be part of the galactic community. But when we realized that acceptance would never come, we adapted. She picked up a fallen blossom and studied it. Humans are very good at adapting. What do you want now? What we always wanted? Respect. Recognition. A seat at the table, not a podium in the basement. Yuna crushed the blossom in her hand. And an apology. From every species that laughed while we suffered. Bon was silent for a long time. The river flowed. The blossoms fell. Finally, she bowed her ancient head. On behalf of the OTI, she said quietly, I am sorry. It was a beginning. 6 months had passed since Earth withdrew from all treaties. The galaxy was different now. The old order had crumbled. The powerful had become weak. The weak had become strong. Everything had changed, and everyone knew it. The Galactic Assembly gathered one last time in the Great Hall of Station Cora. The same black walls, the same floating lights, the same platforms of gold and silver, but the mood was nothing like before. There was no laughter. There were no insults. There was only fear and shame and desperate hope. Minister Yuna walked into the chamber. She did not go to the small podium at the bottom where humans had always stood. She walked straight to the central platform, the one reserved for the most powerful species in the galaxy. No human had ever stood there. No one tried to stop her now. Behind her came Tay, now her senior advisor. Behind him came Admiral Day in his military uniform. Behind him came Dr. Sue with her messy hair and thick glasses. And behind them all, visible on every screen in the chamber, was the Earth fleet. 200 warships holding formation like a wall of steel. The old podium, the one where humans had begged for scraps for 40 years, stood empty. Someone had put flowers on it. No one knew who. Delegate Thomas's was not there. He had resigned 3 months ago after the Vel government collapsed. The new delegate was a young female named Kira. She kept her 4 eyes on the floor and did not speak. "We are here," Una began, "not to celebrate, not to demand revenge. Humanity has no interest in becoming what we once suffered under." The chamber was completely silent. Every species watched her with intense attention. The translators worked overtime to carry her words to every ear. For 40 years, this council operated on a simple belief. Some species matter, and some do not. Humanity was told again and again that we did not matter. We were called animals. We were called parasites. We were given the lowest podium and the dirtiest work and told to be grateful. She paused and looked around the room. Old faces. Young faces. Scared faces. She had spent her life learning to read alien expressions. She knew what she was seeing. They were listening. They were ready. We have proven, perhaps painfully, that this belief was wrong. We matter. We have always mattered. And now everyone knows it. Admiral Day stepped forward. His white hair gleamed under the floating lights. "Earth proposes a new charter for the galaxy," he said. "Equal representation for all species, regardless of size or power. Fair distribution of resources based on need, not on politics. Shared control of critical infrastructure so that no species can hold another hostage." He projected a document onto the central display for everyone to see. "We call it the Covenant of Equals." The chamber exploded with noise. Some species shouted in anger. The idea of equality was offensive to those who had spent centuries believing they were superior. Other species shouted in joy. The small ones, the forgotten ones, the ones who had suffered just like humanity. They wept openly in their seats. Elder Bun rose from the OIT platform. Her blue glow was steady and calm. "The OTI have read this covenant," she said. "We find it wise and fair. The OT vote yes." A ripple went through the crowd. The OTI were the oldest species. Their approval meant something. The Madri delegate stood next. His flower-like head was drooping with stress and grief. 300,000 of his people had died during the human withdrawal. His species faced extinction without human medical knowledge. "The Madri have made terrible mistakes," he said. His voice cracked with emotion. "We called human doctors monkeys. We threw stones at their children. We did not deserve their help, and when they stopped helping, we died." He bowed deeply toward Una. "The Madri apologize. The Madri vote yes." One by one, other species followed. The Fenrith, unable to communicate with anyone for 6 months, voted yes with desperate relief. The small species voted yes with tears of joy. Even species who had mocked humanity voted yes because they had no choice. The new order was coming, whether they liked it or not. Finally, Kira of the Vel stood. The chamber fell silent. The Vel had been humanity's worst tormentors. What would they say? Kira raised her head slowly. Her 4 eyes were wet with something that might have been tears. "My predecessor called humans clever animals," she said. "He said you stumbled into the stars by accident. He said you contributed nothing." She took a deep breath. He was a fool, and his foolishness destroyed our empire. 40% of our economy is gone. Our fleet is afraid to leave port. Our people have lost faith in our government. She turned to face Una directly. "The Vel do not apologize easily. It is not in our nature. But I am not here to protect our pride. I am here to save what remains of my people." She bowed her head. The Vel apologized for 40 years of cruelty. The Vel vote yes. The final count was overwhelming. The Covenant of Equals passed with 94% approval. Only a handful of species refused. They were small and isolated and did not matter. Yuna allowed herself one moment to feel the weight of what had happened. 40 years of suffering. 40 years of planning. 40 years of patience. It had all led to this moment. She heard Tay whisper behind her. "We did it." "No," she said quietly. "We have only begun." The covenant is words on paper. Making it real will take generations. But the first step is complete. She stepped forward to address the assembly one final time. 40 years ago, humanity came to this council as beggars. You told us we were animals. You told us we contributed nothing. You laughed at our pain and dismissed our dreams. Her voice grew strong and fierce. You were wrong. And now, at last, you know it. She turned and walked out of the chamber. Her people followed. In the corridor outside, Commander Hannah was waiting with a bottle of wine. Real wine from Korean vineyards on Earth? "To the new order," Hannah said, holding up the bottle. Yuna took it and smiled. For the first time in 40 years, her smile reached her eyes. To humanity. Outside, the stars burned bright. Somewhere among them, Earth waited. A small planet orbiting a small star? Home to a species that had been underestimated for the last time. The galaxy would never make that mistake again.